Section 1 of Harper's Young People, Volume 1, Issue 3, November 18th, 1879. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Harper's Young People, Volume 1, Issue 3, November 18th, 1879. The Tournament. Great rivalry arose once between James and Henry, two schoolmates and warm friends, and all on account of a pretty girl who went to the same school. Each one wanted to walk with her and carry her books and lunch-basket, and as Mary was a bit of a coquette and showed no preference for either of her admirers, each tried to be the first to meet her in the shady winding lane that led from her house to the school. At last they determined to decide the matter in the old, knightly manner, by a tournament. Two stout boys consented to act as charges, and the day for the meeting was appointed. It was Saturday afternoon, a half-holiday, when the rivals met in the backyard of Henry's house, armed with old brooms for lances and with shields made out of barrel-heads. The chargers backed up against the fence. The champions mounted and faced each other from opposite sides of the yard. The herald with an old tin horn gave the signal for the onset. There was a wild rush across the yard, and a terrific shock as the champions met. James's lance struck Henry right under the chin, and overthrew him in spite of his gallant efforts to keep his seat. The herald at once proclaimed victory for James, and Henry, before he was allowed to rise from the ground, was compelled to renounce all intention of walking to school with Mary in the future. End of Section 1.
Section 2 of Harper's Young People, Volume 1, Issue 3, November 18, 1879. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Diana Schmidt. Harper's Young People, Volume 1, Issue 3, The Brave Swiss Boy, Part 2, A Perilous Adventure, continued. Begun in Number 1 of Harper's Young People, November 4. In this dreadful crisis, Walter pressed as hard as he could against the rocky crag, having but one hand at liberty to defend himself against the furious attack of the bird. It was quite impossible for him to get to his axe, and the force with which he was assaulted caused him nearly to let go his hold. He tried to seize the vulture's throat and strangle it, but the bird was too active, and made all such attempts perfectly useless. He could scarcely hope to continue such a dangerous struggle much longer. He was becoming faint from terror, and his left hand was growing benumbed with grasping the rock. He had almost resigned himself to his fate, and expected the next moment to be dashed to pieces on the field of ice beneath. Suddenly, however, he recollected his pocket-knife, and a new ray of hope dawned. Giving up the attempt to clutch at the furious bird, he drew the knife out of his pocket and opened it with his teeth, and aiming 2 or 3 blows at the creature's breast, he found at last that he had been successful in reaching some mortal part. The fluttering of the wings ceased, and the dying bird stained the virgin snow with its blood on the ice field below. Walter was saved. There was no other enemy now to fear. His life was no longer in danger, but his energies were taxed to the utmost, and it was well for him that the terrible contest had lasted no longer. Pale, trembling in every limb, and spattered with the vulture's blood as well as that which trickled from the many wounds he had received, the valiant young cragsman sank helplessly to the ground, where he lay for some minutes, paralyzed with the terrible exertion he had gone through. At length, however, he so far recovered himself as to be able to continue his fatiguing and dangerous journey, and soon succeeded in reaching the spot where he had left his jacket, shoes, and alpenstock. Having gained a place of safety, he poured forth his thanks to God for delivering him from such great danger, and began to bind up his wounds, which for the first time were now paining him.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?